Yeah, the protesters, not the...
Things seem to be escalating here in New York City. We've been watching the protest marches in Boston, Chicago, Washington, and Manhattan, where our own Jonathan Hunt is out on the streets. We're going to check in with him now. Jonathan, what are you seeing?
Megan, we are currently just south of Times Square. We've been moving north up 7th Avenue. This is a protest that is now coming into its 5th hour, Megan. It started with literally thousands of people on the streets, and symbolically, they gathered in an area of Manhattan that you will know, Foley Square, directly outside the New York Supreme Court and the federal courthouse, the heart of a New York justice system that these people claim denied justice to Eric Garner and his family, denied justice prior to that, they say, the system as a whole, to Michael Brown and his family. We have seen, Megan, the familiar chants, seen and heard the familiar chants of hands up, don't shoot. This protest now, though, I have to say, has dwindled.
Jonathan, let me just interrupt you. What are they yelling at the cops?
This point, Megan.
What are these folks yelling at the police right now?
They have been yelling at the police the same things that we have heard throughout these protests, Megan. Hands up, don't shoot, no justice, no peace. One other chant, how do you spell racist? NYPD. And while we're talking about the police, Megan, let me just say that this is a huge protest on the streets of Manhattan tonight, and it has been policed entirely, as far as I have seen, with mesh nets to block off certain streets and zip ties. Nothing more than that. The NYPD, the best in the world, as we all know, at marshalling this kind of protest. They have done so tonight, and on behalf of the protesters, they have also been largely peaceful. They have not used violence to try to break any police lines. They've used numbers. They have not succeeded, and the NYPD has, so far as we have seen from our one vantage point, Megan, as we've walked through the streets some 3 miles, they have kept this entirely peaceful on both sides, Megan.
Jonathan Hunt, thank you. One former NYPD officer said to me last night, "This isn't Ferguson. We're not going to need the National Guard," meaning the NYPD knows how to handle a protest. It's Manhattan. Joining us now, Republican New York Congressman Peter King. Congressman, good to see you tonight.
Thank you,
so they're out there in the face of law enforcement with the hands up, don't shoot, shouting at these police officers, shouting at the people that we employ to keep us safe. The anger is palpable. Your thoughts on why?
First of all, I think it's totally misdirected. It's the result of agitation by people like Al Sharpton, by irresponsible statements by people like Mayor de Blasio. Let's start at the top. The district attorney in Staten Island, Dan Donovan, is a man of unimpeachable integrity, of great ability. No one's ever questioned his professionalism or his ability as a district attorney. Secondly, the whole
He's indicted cops before, has he not?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And by the way, there is absolutely no element of race here, and I'll say that right from the start. The highest-ranking officer at the scene was an African-American female sergeant.
At the scene of Eric Garner's death.
Absolutely. She was there the whole time. Secondly, the reason that the cops were there that day was not on their own. The local merchants, this is a minority neighborhood, these are minority business people, went to the police headquarters, and the chief of the department then was an African-American. They complained that Brown was disrupting the area,
Garner.
preventing, Eric Garner was disrupting the area and preventing people from coming into their stores. They were there at the request of minority shop owners, at the direction of an African-American police chief, and under the direction of an African-American sergeant.
And this was a man, our viewers should know, who had been arrested 31 times, according to the police, who was a convicted felon, who had been in and out of jail several times over the past 10 years. However, granting all of that and everything you just said, the response from the critics is, why did they have to be so rough with him? Why, when they had him down, and this man who was struggling, this human being who was struggling, saying, I can't breathe, why couldn't they let up on him?
First of all, Megan, if you say you can't breathe, that means you can breathe, because you're unable to talk if you can't breathe.
Well, it's short form for I'm having difficulty breathing. I mean, it's like, well, I don't know Megan, that there has to be a literal interpretation.
I've seen a number of people taken down. This was a takedown. If someone is resisting arrest, it often takes 4 or 5 cops to get him. You have to subdue the person on the ground. And they kept saying, put your hands behind your back, and he wouldn't. And again, I've seen guys held down. You're breaking my arm, you're breaking my neck, I can't breathe, I'm dying. If they had let up on the tension, and he got up, this would have started all over again. 99 or 999 of 1,000 times, the person would not have died. As the coroner's reporter, the autopsy showed, he had high blood pressure, he was obese, and he had diabetes, and he had asthma. This is all in the autopsy report.
I understand all that, and you took some heat today for pointing that out. The fact is, the police didn't know he had any of those conditions.
That's in the autopsy report.
I know. Eric Garner did know that he had those conditions. Right. So query why he was arguing with police in a situation that obviously had the potential to escalate. You need to be extra careful. And that's not a condemnation of him, but we do need to comply when the police tell us to comply. However, even after they effected the arrest and they had him down on the ground and he had suffered, obviously physically, he sat there. He sat there and he sat there and he sat there and he was suffering. And the question many people have is, how does that not amount to a manslaughter charge when manslaughter basically is the intentional or the killing of another? I have the charge right here. Hold on. I want to read it for the audience so they know what it amounts to. Stand by. I'm looking through my notes. Here it is. Manslaughter in New York is one recklessly causes the death of another. How is this not that?
Because, first of all, there's no reason to believe that the police officer took him down would have known that. You had 5 cops there. You had EMS people coming. You had a sergeant there. And in the confusion of the moment, that they would have known that he was having that type of heart attack or that type of disturbance, you would not expect every cop to know that. It's all a matter of minutes we're talking about. We're talking about a person resisting arrest. And as I said, 99 of 100 times it would have gone fine. And I'm not saying he deserved to die. He didn't. But to somehow say that maybe it's negligence, but to say it's manslaughter, that an EMS person didn't give emergency care quickly enough. Certainly they didn't do it on purpose. And again, it was an African-American sergeant.
And
there
not only
the
that,
whole
but the NYPD, unlike Ferguson PD, NYPD is minority majority. The majority of the NYPD are people of color.
Right.
And yet these folks are out there marching, you know, basically accusing them of being racists. And the question remains based on what? I got to go, Congressman. Good to see you tonight.
Okay. Right.
We're also getting live pictures from Chicago, where protests have now shut down the famous Lakeshore Drive. So we've seen them in Manhattan, we've seen them in Chicago, we've seen them in D.C., we've seen them beyond. You can see the lanes of the highway here, where the police are confronting the protesters. Just ahead, we'll be joined by Mark Thiessen on why he thinks President Obama's latest response is off base. Plus, we will debate whether this grand jury got it wrong.